Today I went to the American Consulate here in Hong Kong to hold up a protest sign to try to do something about the killings going on in Gaza at the moment. I had a sign at the top. It says, "I condemn what Hamas did on October 7. Obviously evil, wrong, bad, unjustified, terrible violence should not happen, wrong." But on the other hand, since then, Israel has done even worse things, killing people, dropping bombs on residential areas. I'm very, very sad to know that something like 3,000 children, maybe 3,000 women have died in the last few weeks. A child is dying every, 3 or 4 children every hour. And I've been watching the news of a morning, trying to have breakfast and follow the news, and I get very, very sad. I almost want to cry. And I've been praying, like most Christians have been praying day and night for peace there. But one morning after breakfast, I was cleaning my teeth in the office, and I just had this idea, maybe I should go to the American Consulate and protest. I did a similar thing back in 2014, the last time this thing happened. I stood on the walkway between Central and the Star Ferry Pier all day with a couple of signs calling on America and Israel to stop the attacks on Gaza. So I thought, oh no, I'm not going to, no, I don't want to. But then after I thought about it, I said, why not? If I can go, I should go. So I went last Thursday, and then again today. It's like becoming a habit every Thursday. But I think there's a need for this because all around the world people are protesting, but in Hong Kong we're a bit slow for various reasons. We can't hold protests, but 1 or 2 people are still allowed to have private protests, and I feel if I can do something, and with a few photos that go on the internet or around the place, that it can be good. Because I saw one report from Palestine, from Gaza, and a young lady reporter there. She's actually a reporter but living there and has lost members of her family, and she said one of the main things that is giving them hope at the moment is the fact that protests are going on around the world. They know that people care for them. And I would just like to send a little message that people in Hong Kong also care. Not so easy for us to have protests, but people here do care and pray for Gaza like people other places. Well, some people might say one voice is not much, but it can make a difference. One person's protest can encourage others to do something. They might read about it on the internet and do something in their own way. And sometimes it just takes one person or one group to start something. So one people, one place can make a difference. Well, I know I've got a lot of work to do, a lot of jobs, but when people are dying, that takes priority over other jobs. It's the same when somebody's dying in a hospital or there's been an accident. Priests like myself, we just drop everything to go and visit or help. Situations like this take priority over everything else without neglecting other jobs. But if we can put other jobs in the background a bit, and I think we're called to give priority to situations like this, because even as we speak, people are dying and injustice is happening. So I think there's a need to do something quickly and immediately. I think the whole situation in the Holy Land, as I call it, Israel, Palestine, it's very, very complicated, and not everybody knows the background. 2,000 years ago, it belonged to the Jewish people, and God had sent their ancestor Abraham there, and they actually took over the land from the people living there. But then after the time of Jesus, when the Romans crushed the Jewish state, the Jews had to leave, and for 1,000 years or whatever or more, it was just Palestinians living there. But then only maybe a small number of Jewish people still there. But then about more than 100 years ago, Jewish people started going back there a bit more, and when Britain took over the area after Turkey relinquished it at the end of World War I, Britain helped and encouraged Jewish people to go there, to have a homeland. And many people in the world felt sorry for the Jewish people not having their own homeland. So it was a good idea in a lot of ways, and especially when the Jews were treated terribly by the Nazis and in Russia. and I think the whole world was sympathetic for the Jewish people to go back and have a homeland. Unfortunately, the way it was done or what happened didn't work out so well, and the Palestinians obviously weren't so happy with all these foreigners coming and occupying their land. They regard the Jewish people as occupiers, and that's happened in other places as well. And many people tried to bring about a peaceful resolution. The United Nations tried, different groups tried to help the two groups live together harmoniously, and the idea developed of two separate states sharing the land. And at one stage, but it never eventuated, and eventually, about 1948, I think it was, before any agreement had happened, Israel just used force to say, well, this is our place, this is ours, not yours. And they started evicting Palestinians from their places and restricting the areas Palestinians could go to. And that led to all sorts of fighting between the two states. And unfortunately, even from then, Israel started treating the Palestinians very unjustly. And then in the subsequent decades, there were many attempts to bring about peace. At one stage, the leader of Israel and the leader of the Palestinians, I think, were given the Nobel Peace Prize for bringing about a peace accord. But unfortunately, it never was put into practice, and the famous Jewish leader, peace man, was assassinated. And I think that led to the collapse of the accord. And since then, the fighting has gone on, different wars, and unfortunately, I am not ashamed to say it, I think the present Prime Minister Netanyahu, he's got a lot of responsibility for this situation, because he's been around for a long time. He's very hard-line. He's a criminal according to the law courts in Israel itself. They have prosecuted him, as a result of which he's tried to get rid of the judges. There have been huge protests in Israel. He's very unpopular with a lot of people there. And in order to get power this time again, he joined forces with extreme right-wing people. And that's been the government in recent months, and it's those people who have become excessively hard-line towards the Palestinians. In the last 16 years, in fact, Israel has treated the Palestinians shamefully. Gaza has become like a prison. People can't go and come. Restrictions on food, fuel, everything. It's like a giant prison. And they've been treated shamefully. United Nations Secretary General spoke about this recently. He said all this October 7th thing did not happen in a vacuum. There's a huge background of injustice, terrible injustice. Amnesty last year put out a report showing how Israel has in fact been practicing apartheid. Red Cross, Oxfam, many international agencies and the United Nations have continually criticized Israel for ignoring international law, international agreements. So it's been a terrible situation, and Netanyahu unfortunately has been a large part of it. He and his extreme right-wing people have made this situation worse, and they only speak one language, the language of violence. And in the last few months especially, terrible things have happened to the Palestinians, and it's no wonder, it's not really justified, but it's no wonder that October 7 happened. It was waiting to happen, because such injustice breeds violence, it breeds evil, and Israel is making it worse for themselves. This injustice and now subsequent violence towards the Palestinians, it's going to make things worse. It's going to make things less safe, not more safe for Israelis around the world. They're putting Israeli lives in danger, not just in the Middle East, but all around the world. People are going to have a great hatred for Jewish people, which is tragic. Netanyahu bears a terrible responsibility for doing this. He's making life dangerous, more dangerous for Jewish people all around the world. It's even sadder that America is supporting him. How can they support a guy like this? He's like Putin. What Putin's done to Ukraine, he's doing to the Palestinians. And it's just terrible. America is just going along with him and supporting him and funding the fighting, providing the bombs. This is what a lot of people can't believe, that America is so beholden to Israel that it will go along with anything. It's very complicated. In America and other places, the media is so biased towards Israel. Unbelievable. Even the BBC recently, there were reports of our BBC staff were seen crying in the toilets because their bosses would not allow them to give even coverage to both sides. It's becoming a war in the media, not just on the ground. It's very, very complicated, very sad. What can anybody do? All we can do is pray and try to stay informed, try to encourage other people to be informed, because a lot of people still don't know the big story, the background, as the United Nations man said. It didn't happen in a vacuum. And the only way forward is to stop the fighting, stop the bombing, and somehow or other get together around the table. And because both peoples are there, you can't ask either the Jewish people or the Palestinians to leave it. It's the homeland of both of them. They just have to learn to get along together. America was able to bring about a peace accord in Northern Ireland 25, 30 years ago. And I believe at the same week that President Bill Clinton did that, he went into the late hours of the morning, early hours of the morning for a week, and eventually the two sides in Northern Ireland agreed to truce. And apparently, according to a Guardian reporter, that same week Clinton and his team were trying to do the same for Israel and the Palestinians. They almost got there, but I think it was Israel who backed out at the last minute. And since then, things have just spiraled out of control and got worse. So what's needed now is maybe America has blotted its copybook. It's too one-sided. It needs somebody else, or maybe a group of people from both sides, someone in the middle, maybe China, maybe someone from Africa or the Middle East, someone to come in, get both sides together, stop the killing on both sides, stop the fighting, and somehow or other realize that both people are in the land. It belongs to, de facto now, it's the home of both sides. They've just got to learn to live together and somehow or other bring about a peace accord. Maybe something to do with trade, something a carrot to encourage the whole region. You know, back after World War II, Europe was in tatters after World War II, and buildings, cities destroyed, and the German leader Adenauer, he had the vision of setting up the European Union as a way of stopping war in the future and bringing people together who used to be enemies. Now, could that not be done in the Middle East? A Middle East Union, come together, set up a huge trade thing. They've got to be a prosperous union, work together for trade and tourism rather than for fighting. And, you know, all the Arabs, the Jewish people, all the states of the Middle East come together, form a Middle East Union. That would be my dream. Can somebody please stop the madness and start going towards some vision like that?